this is my review of Cells at Work. Okay, so this episode actually takes place in the large intestine, and basically the last lactic acid bacterium is found there, and also the immune cells finally fill in normal cell about what's actually going on regarding cancer cell and how they're going to fight him soon. And case in point, we would find out in the preview at the end of the episode that he actually gets his own two-parter. So, or at least I think it's a two-parter, but in any case, the episode is mainly about how the large intestine works, and that's mainly what the episode is. So the episode starts off with normal cell, NK cell, and 1146 going on a trip through the large intestine, and normal cell tells the lactic acid bacterium that they're going to find its family soon, because this is the large intestine, and this is the last place where lactic acid bacterium are known to be found, or at least according to the context of Cells at Work. But that he hopes that they'll be able to find them, since there's a lot of bacterium since according to 1146 there's a lot of bacterium inside the large intestine, and sure enough it's a pretty big place. The large intestine, if you guys don't know, or at least how Cells at Work describes it, I don't know. I know this is how it works, but the way the larger intestine actually works is that it makes you poop. That's it. It makes poop. That's its primary goal. It's also home to a lot of bacterium, which I will get to in a minute. But it's hard. But as they're walking, and also as NK cell becomes increasingly aware and pointing out that it's not settled, that there's a lactic acid bacterium hiding under normal cell's shirt. They actually go through, and 1146 explains that there's a lot of smog in the air, and 1146 explains it's because of the bacterium balance and how it seems to be off today. And as they're walking through, they actually have a brief reunion with 2803. They finally 3803, but they finally meet up with 3803 again. And she's there doing deliveries, but she also can't help but notice how smoggy it is, and even asks what exactly is going on. And 1146 just tells her the straight truth that basically how it works is that the lower intestine has both good bacteria and bad and harmful bacteria in it, and that they frequently fight for power within the large intestine, and that today it seems like the harmful bacteria seem to be winning so far, and that it's kind of off balance, and that they're producing harmful toxins into the air because of them. At which point 3803 realizes she needs to go finish her deliveries before something bad happens to her, and then immediately runs off into the rest of the intestine to go find her delivery routes and go find out where she's supposed to deliver. At which point she runs into the platelets, who are apparently going through a bit of a tour, and as it turns out, the large intestine kind of functions as a tour / gift stop for the platelets, and the platelets are just kind of there to learn more about the large intestine. And she decides to join them, and we find out through the platelets and her that how the larger intestine works is that there are actually three types of bacterium. There's good bacterium, which we already know, harmful bacterium, which we already know, and then they introduce a third type of bacterium, which is the circumstantial bacterium or opportunistic bacterium or something along those lines. But basically how they work is that they're neither harmful nor helpful. They just kind of take whatever stop. They just kind of aid whatever bacterium is currently in control, whether it's the good bacterium or the bad bacterium. They're kind of just neutral. But in any case, after they get off the little ride, they see that 3803 is there, and they greet her, and she spends the rest of the episode playing with the platelets and just kind of helping them play in the little amusement park that's there, and it's kind of cute. But But in case, as NK and 1146 and Normal Cell are walking through the large intestine, they actually run into the killer T cells, and the lead killer T cell has evolved into a memory T cell because he found out, because apparently this is a thing that killer T cells just do when they encounter an antigen that they battled before. They evolve into a memory T cell, or at least temporarily, in order to lead the other killer T cells against the antigen that they fought before. And since he's fought cancer cell before, that means he's a prime example for that, and he just evolves. Although the way they decide to do it is that he doesn't really evolve into a new type of cell. They just give him a new hat that says memory on it, and it's a running joke that most people just kind of don't respect the hats, as he puts it. He's just like, you see the hat? I'm a memory T cell now, even though fundamentally he's the same exact character as we've seen before. The only difference is he's got a new hat. But in case he as NK 1146 and Normal Cell are walking through, they actually are their path is actually blocked up by the killer T cells, and memory T cell gives them an impassioned speech about how they're going to face off against the antigen, against the cancer cell again, although he doesn't actually say who cancer cell is yet. That becomes a much bigger reveal toward the middle of the episode, but he explains that as a memory T cell, he's going to help them face off against the antigen and actually help them defeat cancer cell and actually defeat him. But as he's giving his speech, NK Cell kicks him into a river, and then just takes that opportunity to tease him, pointing out that he's kind of in her way, and she just kind of takes the opportunity to tease him and make fun of him. And it's clear that Killer T Cell just responds that, what did he ever do to her? He doesn't really understand why she doesn't like him all that much. She just doesn't. But in case 1146 asks memory T Cell if he's alright, although he does call him Killer T Cell, which causes Killer T Cell to become a little bit upset with him, because he's technically a new cell. But he points out that he should be referred to as memory T, and 1146 decides to honor that, or at least to the best of his ability, if he remembers. But as they're talking, he notices that 1146 is hanging out with Normal Cell, and then scolds him again for not taking his job seriously enough as a neutrophil. At which point, the Lactic Acid Bacteria hiding in Normal Cell's shirt actually makes a noise, and 1146 takes that opportunity to basically he just proclaims that he's going to leave and take his job seriously now, and just escorts Normal Cell out of the way. Although the NK Cell notes that the killer T cells are kind of dense, because they clearly hear something but don't even bother to go investigate it. At which point, Normal Cell, having noticed that the situation, that the mood has kind of gotten a little bit more tense and that everybody seems to be talking in hushed whispers, asks them who they're talking about and who this mysterious antigen that they're going to try and take out is. And in unison, all of the immune cells actually respond that it's cancer. They're going to be fighting against cancer cell again, and upon hearing this, Normal Cell panics. Realizing that such a dangerous antigen being in the body is probably bad news. Well, not an antigen, but such a dangerous enemy loose in the body is probably bad news, and he realizes that's most likely why the tone has just completely shifted in the past couple of episodes, in the past episode and a half. At which point 1146 reveals that he's actually going to be parting ways with Normal Cell for the time being, because defeating cancer takes priority over basically everything else, because cancer is probably the most dangerous disease in the entire human body can face. So obviously, trying to eradicate it before it spreads, that is a pretty high on the list of priorities type thing, if not the very top. So, and with that, 1146 and Normal Cell begin to part ways, but before they do, Normal Cell asks 1146 why he's decided to save him and help him, pointing out that 1146's job is to kill, and that's their job. And 1146 merely gives him a straight answer, that it's because he killed so much that he decided to help out, that he decided to help Normal Cell. And with that, he leaves. At which point, Normal Cell goes through the rest of the large intestine to actually go find out where, the final lactic acid bacterium actually belongs. So, but as things are kind of picking up there, the lower intestine kind of has a bit of a problem. So as we've established, the lower intestine is kind of a mess because it's currently being kind of sort of upset in the balance between the good bacterium and the harmful bacterium. But and sure enough, as 3803 red blood cell, as she's playing with the platelets, and also there's a really cute scene where all of them want piggyback rides and she has no idea what to do. So the platelet leader just helps her out by pointing out that they need to form a single file line. And ask nicely. As she's doing that, a pipe actually bursts within the location where they are, and one of the intestinal cells just responds that happens all the time, and then patches it up with duct tape as best they can. So yeah, it doesn't really fix the problem. They just kind of slap a band-aid on it for the time being until they can actually fix the pipe. But meanwhile, things are kind of hitting the fan as Normal Cell is going through the lower intestine. He talks to the lactic acid bacterium about how he's happy to finally help find his new friend, and that there's most likely somewhere along in the large intestine, and that they'll most likely be parting ways soon. And then we learn a bit more about Normal Cell's backstory, which is that he didn't really have many friends growing up as a cell, so he didn't really have anybody to play with and hang out with. So he's happy that he was able to help the lactic acid bacterium find their friends, and he hopes that they'll remember him going forward. But as he's having that conversation with the lactic acid bacterium, he actually hears arguing from the other room, and he goes inside to discover that a goblet cell is arguing with some intestinal cells, with an intestinal cell, about how the wall of the intestine is kind of been compromised and is kind of a mess. And that they're kind of arguing about whether or not they should continue to push until their limit, or if they're already at their limit, with goblet cell being on the line of the ladder. And so goblet cells are a type of intestinal cell that are designed to produce mucus to contain bacterium. That's what they do. That is their job. The reason he's kind of upset is because the mucus that he produces is kind of not doing a very good job of keeping the cell is not doing a very good job of keeping the harmful bacteria at bay, and that the wall is starting to crack open. And sure enough, as he's saying that, the wall just kind of bursts open, and a bunch of antigens just burst forth, and decide to take over and start by killing the cells that are directly in front of them, which at this point happen to be goblet cell and normal cell. So so they all just run like hell. And sure enough, because of this, an entire notice goes through the large intestine, and 3803 understandably asks what's going on, and the intestinal cell that works in the gift shop where they were hanging out merely remarks that it's nothing and that this thing happens all the time. But then as she's leaving, she just kind of casually remarks that they should probably run like hell as well. And after realizing that that was kind of some last minute information, she escorts all the platelets out, and every single cell in the large intestine just kind of books it. They kind of just kind of leave. Meanwhile, memory cell, NK cell, and 1146 are looking for cancer cell, and they eventually do find him in a cave. Although during the ride there, during the walk there, NK cell and memory cell begin walking into each other on purpose, which causes them to start pushing and shoving each other. And this entire thing happens off screen, but it just slowly zooms in on 1146's face, who's just deadpan toward the camera the entire time, and it eventually just decides, hey, maybe you should stop fighting each other before we're going to fight cancer. Just a thought. It's a really funny scene. It's just them casually just pushing and shoving each other, and then it just focuses on 1146's face, and he's just deadpan the entire time. It's great. But in case they do find cancer cell's lair in a nearby cave, and they're suddenly attacked by a bunch of hands, presumably cancers that just emerge out of the wall, and they quickly realize that they have no idea where he actually is. NK Cell actually puts up a decent enough fight and actually faces them off, but eventually gets wrapped up herself, but she does eventually break herself and the other two free, and eventually finds Cancer, who is hanging out on a wall, and she eventually defeats him, only to discover that he was actually a puppet, or at least according to Cancer Cell. And they realize that he's still hiding, and they can hear his voice all around them, and they're not entirely sure where he is until the floor actually collapses underneath them, and they find him in his lair, and he's now massive. Well, not so much massive. He's still just a normal sized cell person, but he now has like massive limbs just sticking out of him at odd angles everywhere. So he's just looks physically huge. And Cancer Cell is happy, I think, that he's facing off against the 3 cells who killed him previously, pointing out that he's looking forward to defeating them again, and that seems like fate, that he's finally going to get his revenge against the cells that killed him. At which point the 4 of them continue to fight, and he points out that one of them is on the side of justice, and it's completely unclear which one is which, because we've established this in the last season, but Cancer Cell is kind of a tragic figure. He's only a villain because he had no choice. He was a normal cell that didn't get reproduced correctly, and he became a cancer cell. He had no choice in that. That's why he's a villain. So he thinks it's on. So in his mind, he's on the side of right, because he believes it's unfair that the immune cells are actually targeting him, even though he's not really a bad guy. He's just doing his job. He's not really a threat, or at least according to himself. But in any case, this fight starts, and he quickly overwhelms the immune cells, and that's the last thing we see of him. He just kind of smacks them into a wall. They're unable to actually fight back for the time being, and then the episode just kind of ends. It ends with them fighting Cancer Cell and losing horribly, or at least for the time being. So yeah, I mentioned this before. Cancer is kind of a scary villain. He's kind of dangerous, not only in the grand scheme of things as a cancer cell in a human body, because that's the plot of Cells at Work, that they're all in a human body and they're all cells, and it shows all the different types of things that happen inside a human body, but namely that he's just a scary villain, and that he can shapeshift his body to however he wants, and your average cell isn't able to do that. I'm just gonna point that out right now. Nor a normal everyday cell in your body, regardless of what they actually do, they're not able to do that. They're not able to do what Cancer Cell is able to do. Even in the context of Cells at Work, he's probably the most dangerous villain, because he can literally change his shape to whatever he needs it to. So he's pretty dangerous. But in any case, that's gonna do it for this review of Cells at Work. So Cancer Cell is gonna get his own 2-parter next episode. He's gonna start with a two-part fight against him again. And I would like to say that this is the last time we're gonna see him, but no. I've already established this, but he does show up in the movie as the main antagonist. So whenever the movie gets an English release date, he'll be in there again. He'll be in it again. I have no idea when the 3rd movie is actually set, but I have no idea when the movie is actually set in the timeline of events, because this anime just kind of goes all over the place with its plot order, kind of, sort of, at least for the first season, and maybe to a lesser extent the second one. But this episode is just kind of setting up the fact that Cancer is going to be a major villain going forward, and also it's going to set up what the Lactic Acid Bacterium actually does. We haven't seen that yet, but that's what this episode sets up. It sets up that Cancer is going to be the main antagonist for the next couple of episodes, and also that there are different types of bacterium. But in any case, that's gonna be my review for Cells at Work. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks, so be sure to check those out in the description below as well. Also, if you guys want to see more content from me, you can either check it out in the sidebar. The sidebar usually recommends things that you like. Or you can check out the 2 videos that are suggested on my end slate. Top one is the most recommended for you. The bottom one is the one that was most recent. So be sure to check those out in the end screen as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Peace!